What's going on, everyone? It's Kai. Want to talk today a little bit about intuition, superpower, versus irrational anxiety. A lot of times as highly sensitive individuals and empaths, we're blessed with one, plagued with the other. Can you guess which one is which? I had a lot of questions about my last video on how anxiety can be a good thing. And, I mentioned a lot of how you should listen to your anxiety. What I was referring to is your intuition. The problem is a lot of times you can't, both are talking to you at the same time. If you're in a relationship and you have a fear of being vulnerable with your partner, it makes you anxious because you're afraid they're going to reject you. Big one, right? Or anything like public speaking even, right? But we're going to stick to the relationship one. Your anxiety is telling you don't do it. It's going to reject, they're going to reject you. They're going to break up with you. They're going to leave you. They're going to abandon you. Then your intuition is also talking at the same time, right? Open up to them. Do it. It's okay. They're going to accept you and acknowledge you, and this is going to be amazing. But a lot of times we can't hear that intuition because our anxiety is so loud. It takes over. It comes in the form. It just your whole body. Like you tense up and you're nervous and, you have a headache and you're stressed and you can't breathe right. And it's so loud. It's like one ear, the anxiety's with a bullhorn, like just right in your face. And the intuition is just like someone whispering, like really gently, and that can be a huge problem, and it even boils down to your own safety, right? Like, attracting like narcissistic individuals, like when you get really tuned in, you can intuitively sense like a narcissistic individual, please, like right away, just by freaking talking to them, spending a few minutes with them, you're like, I already know. A lot of times our anxiety though, right, is playing the role of our traumas and our insecure attachment styles. And since that's what we grew up with, which was chaos and constant anxiety and stress about how we're loved and to be loved and how we should love, that's what usually takes over, and then you won't be able to hear that intuition that as a highly sensitive individual and as an empath that's there, which is telling you, don't do this. This is not a good person for you. It's a calm voice. I'm not saying that it's 100%. There's nothing that's 100%, right? But I can sit here with confidence and at least say that very, very rarely is it wrong. So what I really want to get into is making that discerning decision between what is the anxiety, what is in the trauma talking and the fear talking, versus what is your inner knowing and your intuition. Your self-confidence. That's where confidence comes from. It's that intuition. That's trusting yourself is what that is. And a lot of times we don't, right? Because it's the quiet voice. It's not the loud one screaming in your face, the one you just can't even ignore. A lot of times. You need to do the work. Because at the root of all of that anxiety, in the root of like that horribleness, is a trauma, is a fear-based trauma that we picked up in childhood, and a lot of times is highly sensitive. It's in the word, highly sensitive, empathetic individuals. We are just so much more prone to it because we can feel all emotions so much more heightened. It's such a heightened level, and that includes anxiety. I was on anxiety medication for 15 years before I got off of it. I tried to get off of it many, many times too. I just wasn't ready because I didn't have the proper,
mindfulness techniques, I hadn't healed the trauma where it was coming from. I didn't have good lifestyle habits. I didn't eat really clean, I didn't really know how to ground my nervous system. Wasn't practicing semen retention, conserving my sexual energy. And with semen retention, by the way, has been the single best thing that has ever happened to me as far as, healing and dealing with anxiety. It's completely changed my life. If you haven't tried it and you feel the call to, I really highly recommend you do that, and go watch my other videos on that. Now, how do you tell the difference? How do you, when that anxiety is screaming at you, say in a relationship and you have an anxious attachment style, and you're constantly seeking that reassurance and that approval, and needing that love all the time because that's your anxiety, your fear talking, versus that intuition that is quietly telling you, like, it's okay. You're loved. They loved you. You just saw them. It's okay. How do you tell the difference between the two? And how do you listen to the one that you need to listen to and not the other? Right? Because you shouldn't listen to that irrational anxiety. It's not real. It's trying to protect you. Thank it, respect it, but send it love. But it's not rational. Here's the cool part. That anxiety is telling you exactly what you need to work on. The next time you have an anxiety attack, and it's like a big one, because we're always going to have a little bit of anxiety. We're humans, right? It's never going to go away entirely. But next time you have a big one, focus on that. That's where the work is. And I'm going to do a whole nother video on that. But, oh yeah, how do you tell the difference, when both are talking to you? You need to be able to stop when you're taking that pause for a second. Listen. There's going to be a voice deep down there. And when you're tuned into it, and you need to find it, right? But when you're tuned into it, you're going to instantly feel a little calmer. Even if it's just for a second, you're going to feel it. You can hear both, right? It's up to you to kind of figure out how to listen to both. They're both there. Usually what happens is, this is actually what really helped me a lot, is usually what happens is they kind of cycle in and out. The body, tensing up, and the physical manifestations of anxiety is still going to be there, right? But one of them is going to make you feel calm. It's going to be a knowing. And the other one is just going to almost always, right? Because there's no absolutes. Almost always is going to have a worst case scenario wrapped into it. Listen to the one that isn't always necessarily the worst case scenario. It's just a knowing. I remember the last narcissistic relationship that I had, and this was the last one I've ever had at this point. Had a lot. It took 10 years to heal this childhood wound and this core wound that attracted me to them. Moved from that anxious to secure attachment style. I remember I was sitting in my room, once again, just full of anxiety, because this person was exacerbating that, and they knew it. They were manipulating that and everything, and I was at the point with my anxious attachment style where I was able to catch it out, and I was actually I was actually doing a lot of the behaviors of a secure attachment style, but it wasn't authentic. I was sitting there waiting for a text back, obviously, and she had did the whole I need space card, and I was sitting there in that space, that emotional space, just freaking out, because that's the one thing an anxious attachment style doesn't want to hear is I need space. And sitting there freaking out, trying to give it to them, because I didn't really know what was going on at the time yet. Just trying to give her the space. And But I was slipping. I was slipping. I couldn't hold it in. I couldn't contain it anymore. And then during this meditation, during the silence, the pause that I took, the peace that I took, I had this glimmer of a voice, and it told me this. This relationship is going to end. It's going to end soon. But you need to stay a little bit longer so that you can finish healing. You can finish doing this work. A couple of meditation sessions later, and as I said, I'm going to get into a whole video on how to do this healing and, work through this anxiety and this trauma in another video, but I feel like I'd finally healed it, and it was gone. It was over shortly after the relationship ended, because, the same tactics, the same routine was going on, but, I wasn't in the relationship with this wound anymore, and so I left. Wouldn't say it was an amicable breakup, but I still did it. Find that inner voice inside of you, that intuition. It's there. Listen to that. Trust that. And it's really hard, I know, because the anxiety is so loud and it's so prevalent and it's irrational, and it's not real, and it's not even what you should be doing, but we still do it. Baby steps, but start listening to that inner voice and going with that, even if the anxiety is taking you a complete other direction. All right. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.